Okay, so with all the talk about DDR5 being so expensive and the doom and gloom of that's it, PC gaming's over forever, I don't think so. I mean, there are some options out there. Obviously, DDR4 is still sort of available. So today we're gonna talk about whether or not you can build a gaming rig centered around DDR4 that is still relevant going into 2026 and potentially beyond. So we got some stuff we can talk about. We got some pathways you guys can sort of pursue if you're looking at building a PC. Christmas time is where a lot of people kind of try and shoot their shot to get people to give them money and PC parts for Christmas. So let's at least see whether or not it's still even viable. Meet the Athena M4M from Gamdias, a compact micro tower built for gamers, creators, and anyone who wants big performance in a small footprint. Right out of the box, the Athena M4M makes a statement with its mesh front panel, a sleek RGB light strip, and 3 pre-installed Notice M1 fans, all tied together with an 8-port fan hub and a PSU extension cable, making it for an easier build. The build quality is rock solid. Modular detachable panels with clasps and thumb screws make every section easy to access, and its minimal design fits perfectly into modern setups without taking over your desk. But airflow is where the M4M really shines. You get a perforated mesh front, side and top dust filters, and a front-mounted PSU layout that keeps cables out of your cooling path, and pair that with the BTF motherboard support, your build looks clean from every angle. For cooling power, the included Notice fans deliver smooth, quiet airflow, and the case supports up to 9 fans total. And yes, the compact tower handles dual 360mm radiators, top and bottom, giving you water cooling potential, normally reserved for much larger cases. And despite its small size, compatibility is huge. GPUs up to 395mm in length, MATX motherboards, and PSUs up to 150mm, the Athena M4M gives you the flexibility of a full tower and a footprint that fits anywhere. The Athena M4M, small case, massive potential. Okay, so starting off here, I'm gonna kind of shop 2 different places here. I'm gonna look at Micro Center only because it's sort of funny. I can't find much DDR4 available at Micro Center. Not only that, Micro Center is not available to everyone. So I will be kind of using Amazon as sort of our main source for stuff here. You can actually get some decent stuff at Best Buy as well too, believe it or not. But just to kind of shop Micro Center here, if I look at DDR4 in the Tustin store, which is one of their highest voluming stores, oh hey, we do have some DDR4 in stock. This wasn't there the other day, so clearly they're still getting some DDR4, but they've got 16 sets of 32 gigabytes of Corsair Vengeance LPX DDR4 3200. 3200 is pretty solid. I would say 3200 is like the good sweet spot. You can get 3600 as well. I don't think anything higher than that's gonna be all that necessary. It looks like though, that is the only DDR4 that they have. Oh wait, we've got 32 gigs of Team Group Vulkan. They have 15 of those in stock, but that's $240 for also DDR4 3200. That's CL16, and it's CL16 for the Vengeance as well. So obviously it would make no sense to spend $240 versus $171 technically for the Team Group. Now we have some more stuff down here. We have 15 kits in stock of DDR4 3200, 16 gigabytes, so dual 8 gigabyte 6. Look, I think 16 gigabytes can still get you going pretty nicely. I know 32 gigs has become like where a lot of people are saying, oh, you need to buy 32 gigs or more or your system is slow and sucky. Look, that's not really true these days. And let's be honest, most modern titles these days are not really all that modern. They're kind of built on hardware that was been around for a while. In fact, PC gaming and AAA titles are what kind of propels forward the entire hardware industry. That's not been the case. The games have been sort of lackluster, and to be honest, it hasn't been propelling anything forward, except I guess the bottom line of a lot of these developer companies that are still terrible at making games. But you can see here we have 2 sets of the Viper Patriot Steel 16 gig 32 available right there. So you can still get DDR4, that's my point. Now here's the thing, when it comes to building a DDR4 platform, AM5 is out entirely. And that's where Intel kind of has a little bit of a benefit right now when it comes to this current landscape, is 12th gen, 13th gen, and 14th gen have DDR4 motherboard options. All 3 of those chips, because they're kind of essentially the same chip, to be honest. DDR4 and DDR5 is going to be very difficult for people to notice in games, whether you're on DDR4 or DDR5. In fact, not many use cases for general consumers would even notice DDR5's throughput increase. I mean, DDR5 is essentially twice as fast as DDR4, but it is just completely an overkill scenario that's not necessary. Now, this is where AMD kind of shot itself in the foot right now. where AM5 7000 series and 9000 series Ryzen processors require DDR5. So that is the number one thing right now that's holding people up from truly being able to build a system is the cost of DDR5. Because let's see what 32 gigs of DDR5 costs right now. I mean, this is kind of a fun game. Like, what's it cost today? Because it's changing day by day, sometimes even hour by hour. Look at this, 32 gigs of Corsair Vengeance, DDR5 6000, CL32, is it 32? No, CL36, $370. It is, more than, well, almost twice as much as DDR4, but you're not getting twice the benefit for a gaming system. So this is where Intel's kind of gone full circle of being potentially relevant again, because if we talk about DDR4, that means you would have to go, if you're hell-bent on building an AMD system, means you would have to go AM4 platform. And if you really want to get the best gaming performance out of that, then you're gonna have to go with something like a 5800X3D, which is still pretty expensive because it is the fastest gaming CPU on the AM4 platform. So I don't personally think people that are shopping in these price points right now of trying to be quote unquote affordable, that it makes a whole lot of sense to go with a 5800X3D. Because if we take a look at Amazon right here, and let's go ahead and just take a look at the price of a 5800X3D. You can see it is $385. Now it's available today. Like, I'm fortunate. We live in the middle of like the Bermuda Triangle of Amazon distribution centers. So most things are available same day, if not early next morning, right? So we're really kind of spoiled by that. Now, if we look on Amazon for the 5800X3D, you can see right now, because it's an older thing, it just says see more options, but you can see featured offers available from $699. So it's one of those things where, check this out, it's used for $700. I don't think they're really making 5800X3Ds anymore. Does Micro Center even have one? I doubt it. Let's see. Now I know why I've been getting emails, people asking me if I'll sell them my 5800X3D, because I have two of them. I bought one and then forgot I bought it and bought another one. But this is back when I could get them for like 300. Like this was last year. No, there are no 5800X3Ds available. I like how it's like, did you mean 7800X3D? The crazy thing is like, you could build a 7800X3D system, but again, DDR5, right? So 5800X3D is kind of not an option right now. And I would not personally, my personal bias is gonna show here, but I would not build a 5800XT or 5800X system, or even a 5950X system or a 5900X system compared to Intel for DDR4. Intel would perform better than those CPUs. This is before AM5 came and really started kicking Intel's butt. Now we obviously have the trust issue with Intel of, can you trust 13th or 14th gen CPUs to not cook themselves? Well, I think right now we're so far removed from the potential degradation problem that anything that's new is going to automatically have the latest microcode on it if you're buying it unused. And if you're buying a new motherboard and make sure that your BIOS is updated from day one, then I personally would not have an issue running it. A lot of people are still having pretty good luck running their 13900Ks and 14900Ks, but that's not what I'm gonna recommend today. I'm actually gonna recommend a 12900K. The 12900K is the first generation Intel CPU that used their hybrid design of E-core, P-core setup. And so it's very solid, it performs very, very well, and it outperforms those AM4 CPUs that I just mentioned when it comes to a well-rounded system that is good for multitasking and gaming. So if we talk about like 5800X3D specifically, if you could still get it, it's about 4 to 5% faster on average when you compare various charts to a 12900K, but it's like 40% to 50% slower than a 12900K at multitasking and doing, like, if you wanted to do live streams or video editing or whatever, that's where those extra threads are really gonna come in handy. So that's why I just can't recommend an AM4 platform for this if you're going DDR4, because you're giving up too much performance on the table and getting very little in return for it, and that's if you can even find the CPU at a decent price. Now you can see right here, there's a 5800 XT on here on Amazon for 183 bucks, but I just personally would rather have a 12900K and a proven platform. The 12900K was solid. It was really, really solid. It's just because 7000 series started encroaching on Intel's market share is why they really started pushing the boundaries of those CPUs, which led to degradation. And then once they reined everything in and got the motherboard manufacturers on a tighter leash to make sure that they're not pushing the CPU so hard out of the box, the degradation issue did reduce. And then the corrosion issue and all that was pretty much non-existent on 12900K. So now that I've given the rationale, you can apply everything I'm showing here to AM4 if you're just that hell-bent on not using Intel. But there's some pretty good deals on Amazon right now. Shameless plug, I'll put links to these in the description. That way you guys can use our affiliate code if you like to. It's just there. We don't really heavily rely on it, but it's nice to have, right? Okay, so if I look at Intel, let's just do 12900K, right, on Amazon. There's still plenty of them. So the 12900K by itself is $301, right? But you can see right here, Micro Center sells, I know this sounds like a Micro Center ad, it's not, but Micro Center sells on Amazon now. So that was Micro Center's way of trying to get main components in the hands of people that don't live near a Micro Center. It's called Inland. Inland is their in-house brand. But you can see right here, Inland Micro Center CPU, Intel Core i9 12900K, 1700 desktop processor with an MSI Pro Z790 Wi-Fi DDR4 motherboard for $469. I think that's a pretty solid combo for somebody right now that has to make the choice between, do I get to build a PC to start gaming now this Christmas, which I really, really want to, or not? And not meaning nothing. You know what a 12900K and this Z790 motherboard on DDR4 is better than? Nothing. I say nothing as if this is a nothing combo, but this is a very powerful combo that is still very relevant today. So I'm gonna go ahead and add this to our cart. If you wanted to reduce the cost a little bit, they do have a 12700K bundle for $429, but I think the extra $40 is worth the jump from a 12700K to a 12900K. So I'm gonna go ahead and add this to our cart. There's only 2 left, so hopefully you guys, 2 of you are gonna get really lucky, I guess. I'm not gonna actually hit order on this, I don't think, unless I decide to order it and build it and show you guys it was worth it. In which case, there'll be more of them. They've had the 12900K for a while. Obviously, we need DDR4 RAM. Now, I would stay away from these super value brands like A-Tech, 16 gigs. It's got no heat spreader and it's a green PCB or whatever. But I also wouldn't necessarily spend $214 on G.Skill Trident Z. That's 3,600 megatransfers though. That's pretty fast. But I would stick to around the 3,200. And here's the thing. If I can find a decent 32 gig, see, here we go, Silicon Power Value RAM. You may not have ever heard of this brand, but it's pretty solid. Silicon Power's been around for a long time. They're pretty no frills. There's no RGB on the heatsink. I think the heatsink looks pretty neat actually. This is their Steel series or whatever they call it, the heatsink gray. It's $185 for 32 gigs. So my recommendation, if you are hell-bent on 32 gigs or nothing, then there you go. It's gonna cost you about 180 bucks if you're near a Micro Center, or I think it was 170 bucks if you're near a Micro Center for the LPX from Vengeance, or the Silicon Power for 185 bucks. That's 2 16 gig sticks. Otherwise, you can find up here for $80 to $100 range, 16 gigabyte kit. I think 16 gigs is fine for most people still, but if you wanna bake in a little bit of forward compatibility, then go with the 32 gig sticks. Now here's the thing. DDR4 is not really being manufactured anymore. What you're seeing make its way to market right now is just overstock, because DDR4 has been manufactured since the early mid 2010s. So it's got a lot of stock out there. But obviously, as you know, with the DDR5 crisis going on, all these fabs are switching over to make sure only DDR5 is being manufactured. And I think they had already started switching over from DDR4 quite a while ago. You'll find RAM still produced for quite a while after it's no longer the latest thing, because they have to continue to build RAM to support the millions upon millions of enterprise systems and consumer systems that are in the wild using DDR4. So, or even DDR3 existed for a long time after DDR4, and we had this same discussion back in the early 2010s when I started my YouTube channel and DDR4 came out about whether or not you should switch to DDR4 versus DDR3. Anyway, apparently DDR6 is already starting to leak. You know what, fine. Generate DDR6, let the AI slop manufacturers buy that up, and let DDR5 make its way back to consumers, okay? For the same reason we're talking here. All right, so we have CPU, we have motherboard, and we have RAM. Now the motherboard is nothing super exciting to talk about. It's just the MSI Pro Z790P Wi-Fi, but here's the reason why I like this combo. Fortunately for Intel, 12th, 13th, and 14th gen can run on Z690, Z790, both. Like, so Z690 will run obviously 12th gen, Z790 can run 13th gen and 14th gen. Z890 is Core Ultra, so you can't use that. It's 18, I think it's processor 1851 or whatever. So it'll run all LGA 1700 chips. So you could later on decide to upgrade to a 14900K or a 14700K, whatever, if you went with a lower end CPU just to get the system built, and you do have an upgrade path still. And DDR4 again is not going to be you're just not gonna notice the difference, you're really not. So we're up to $654 in our cart. We have motherboard, CPU, and RAM. Now obviously we need GPU. This is where I have no idea what your guys' budgets are gonna be. I think honestly a 5070 would be a pretty solid CPU to target 1440p medium to high gaming. I don't think it would be a problem. It's got 12 gigabytes of VRAM, 16 would be preferred, but here's the problem. It's $600 for the Asus TUF, it's $539 for the Gigabyte WindForce, $549 for the MSI Gaming, $569 for the Prime. TIs jump up to over $800, so I don't think the TI is necessarily going to be a good option. If you are also anti-NVIDIA and you go 9070 XT, those also have a $650 plus price point. Here, so that's $599 for a 5070, $669, $689, $729, $689. So you can see the price jumps up quite a bit. Now, what about something like a 7900 XT? Do those still exist? Let's see. Yeah, here's a 7900 XT for $600. That would still be a pretty damn solid gaming CPU or GPU. Believe it or not though, the 9070 XT does encroach on its performance in quite a few titles. But it's also quite a bit more expensive because I can get a referenced 7900 XT for $600. And I would probably rather have a 7900 XT than a 5070 if you want to know why, because 20 gigabytes of VRAM, and we know that VRAM in a lot of modern titles is definitely important. Although for $70 more, a 9070 XT is 16 gigs of RAM, but the RDNA, it's 4, right? Yeah, the RDNA 4 architecture though is pretty damn solid. So I'm gonna go ahead and just throw in the cheapest 9070 XT I can find. You can adjust the recipe, if you will, based on your budget. Okay, looks like the cheapest one I can find here is the Power Color Hellhound for $629. I think I'm gonna go with the Sapphire though instead. I like the way the Sapphire looks more than the Hellhound. The Hellhound is really basic. The Sapphire is also pretty basic, but it's got a pretty solid, if you don't know Sapphire, they're like EVGA, but for AMD. They've been around forever. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw that one in there. It's got red accents, which I'm not a fan of, but whatever. At this point, we are about getting the build done and aesthetics are kind of second. So we got GPU, CPU, RAM, and motherboard. We are at $1,304 already. You see how quickly that can sort of add up? But so far, this is shaping up to still be a pretty damn solid system. So now we need a power supply. For this build, we truly don't need anything more than like 800 watt because we want to give ourselves some forward compatibility if we go with a bigger graphics card later or something like that. Let's see what we can find for 1,000 watt power supply. It's overkill, but I'm curious as to what the prices are looking like right now. So here is I've never heard of AUTAC before. It's a RGB one though, 1,000 watts for $104. $89 for a Game Max or RS Game. This is the problem, like a lot of people you don't recognize certain brands, but they're all made in the same factories. That's the craziest part. There's only a handful of manufacturers for power supplies. Game Max 1050 watts. Be Quiet for 150. I don't know if I would necessarily spend 150 bucks on a power supply in this price point. Okay, let's see what we got for 800 watt power supply then. I mean, unless you're gonna be going with like 5090, which you're not shopping 5090s. We're having this discussion about DDR5 pricing. I think an 800 watt or an 850 watt power supply can support you up to like a 5080, and you'd be fine with that, honestly. Because 1,000 watt power supply is the minimum for a 5090. 1200 is recommended. 850 can handle a 5080, no problem. PC cooler. These brand names, I love it. The Corsair makes the RM850X. Here's a Cooler Master MWE Gold 850 V2 modular power supply. I would trust Cooler Master power supply, and it's only 80 bucks. Does it have native PCI Express PCIe 5? I love how it says specifically designed for 5080. Then does it have a 12-volt high power? It does not. So does it at least come... I mean, here's the thing. Obviously, the graphics card I chose does not have a 12-volt high power connector. I know... Let me double check that. Yep. That's 2 8-pin. So we're good. We'll go ahead and go with that Cooler Master power supply. I don't condone cheaping out on your power supply very much. The reason why I say that is it is responsible for sending power to all of your systems. You got 3 volts, 5 volts, and 12 volts, or 3.3 volts, 5 volts, and 12 volts running through your system, and you want those rails to be solid, and you don't want any of those voltage regulators to fail, because you can cause a ripple effect that can destroy your entire system if your power supply goes bad. So, power supplies also can age with your system and can be used in new systems as you upgrade in the future. So why buy a new power supply every time? Get the one that is right for the job, but maybe slightly oversized to make sure that you have some room to grow. So we got the Montech Century 2 850 watt high-end 80 plus gold 3.1 PCIe 5.1. Actually, I use this power supply. This is a really solid power supply and I do like it. And they have a 1050 watt for 99 bucks. I'm going with that. I'm going with the 1050 watt because it gives me room to grow. It's a gold rated and it has native power plugs for future compatibility with ATX 3.1 and PCIe 5.1. So we're going with that. And it says, hurry, only 20 left. I guess that's low inventory for Amazon, right? So we need an SSD. And NVMEs right now are also getting hit pretty hard with all of this storage and NAND stuff. A 990 Pro 4 terabyte for $360. That seems like a steal. A 1 terabyte's all we need to get going. We can always add storage later. Let me see what I can find for a good deal on a 1 terabyte. Dang, 2 terabytes for 200 bucks. It's crazy how much storage has started going up. Okay, we have Predator, which is a Kingston brand. 125 bucks for a 1 terabyte. It's kind of high. You could get 1 terabytes for like 60, 70 bucks just a couple months ago. So this is gonna be painful no matter what. This is an area though where I feel like it's important to do your due diligence and do some research on the controller modules that are used on various NVMEs, what type of NAND they're using. They're not created equal. There's more to it than just read-write speed and size. We won't get into that today, but they are not created equal, especially when it comes to their controllers and such. There's the crucial stuff. We'll just scroll right past that. MSI. Silicon Power, again, a brand that we've used. It's the same RAM that we're going to be throwing in here. A 1 terabyte for $124. That's a Gen 3 though. Jeez. Gen 3 drives going for the cost of what Gen 5 drives had been going for. Here's a 990 Pro, 1 terabyte from Samsung. That's a PCIe Gen 4. I would not go too crazy on trying to spec out a Gen 5 at this point. But here's an ADATA 1 terabyte, Legend 900, PCIe Gen 4x4, 7,000 megabyte reads per second. PS5 compatible, I love it, for 95 bucks. I'm actually gonna go with that. ADATA's been around for a long time. I trust ADATA, they use solid controllers, and the price for 95 bucks is not too terrible. So we're up to $1,499.84 before tax. All right, so we are missing 2 parts now. We are missing a case and we are missing a dedicated CPU cooler because the box cooler, there is no box cooler that comes with the Intel K-SKU CPUs and such. They kind of stopped bundling that a long time ago. In this price point, there is only one cooler I can truly recommend. That's gonna be the Montech NX600. Again, not sponsored, just a kick-ass cooler. $29.90 for the black cooler. Oh, their premium got up a little bit, Phil. Remember how it was like $5 premium or $4 premium for RGB? Mm-hmm. Now it's $7 premium.
Dang, inflation.
I know, 37 bucks for RGB. I'm not even gonna pick the RGB. I'm gonna go right here though with the Montech NX600. We did a video comparing that to like the Chromax from Noctua, which is a much bigger cooler. It's insane how good this cooler actually is for 30 bucks. So I'm adding that to our cart. That is not gonna impact our budget a whole lot. And then for a case, I don't know, let's just There's some really good ATX cases on Amazon from brands people have generally never heard of, but are made in the same factories as all the expensive stuff. So let's see what we can find here for something not too crazy expensive, but still looks decent, I guess. This right here, the F600 PC case with 7 pre-installed PWM ARGB fans, mid-tower case for ATX, panoramic glass, blah, blah, blah. You can see it is very much like a Lee & Lee 011, but it's $75. And here's the thing, you can find cheaper cases, but can you find cheaper cases that have 7 pre-installed fans? Probably not. So the 7 that you're gonna get are obviously at the top. These 3 are included on the AIO. There's no AIO in this, but we have a rear exhaust fan and we have 6 intakes, 3 on the motherboard wall, 3 on the bottom. I would just take those 3 on the motherboard wall and probably, well, you know, to be honest, I would just leave them all as intakes and have no fans on the top. There's been a lot of testing, and ours is even kind of shown more recently as we sort of reevaluate case airflow. I can't remember which brand it was that said it. I think it might have been Noctua that actually said it. Putting exhaust fans on the top of your system is actually hurting your cooler's performance because it's pulling air away from the cooler. We demonstrated that actually when we had our smoke machine, when we were doing case airflow testing. We were using the Smoke Ninja is what that's called. And we found that by having just no fans on the top of the case, just the one exhaust fan in the back, and then having our CPU tower cooler, it was pulling air in through the top. We saw the smoke go from the top of the case down into the cooler. So it makes sense that if you're forcing air out the top, that you could be potentially forcing air right by the cooler. So I would you could play around with it. You could start moving some fans around, maybe putting one exhaust past the CPU cooler and then leaving the rest on the side. The point is, it comes with 7 fans for you to play around with for $75. I mean, how can you argue with that? Especially that, if you were to just say each one of those fans costs $5, that's $30 worth of fans, which means now, wait, no, it's $35 worth of fans, right? 7 times 5 is 35, making the case $40. Can't argue with that. Making our entire build, before tax, $1,605. Now the most depressing part about that is, yeah, you're on 3 generations old Intel CPU and you're on DDR4. But what's more depressing than that is not being able to play games or build a system and have the enjoyment of a gaming PC because of the fact that DDR5 is so expensive. DDR5 is not necessary to get into this hobby. But DDR4 is not going to be around forever. It is only every DDR4 module that is bought right now is one less module that will be available in the future because they're not restocking or replenishing them at the rate they're being bought right now, because this is the natural move a lot of people are making. When DDR5 is not available, they're going for the other option, which is DDR4. So their price of DDR4 has trended up because of supply and demand. And right now there's no more restocking really happening for DDR4. I mean, some, but nothing like it used to be even just a year ago. So I wouldn't wait long if you feel that you want to build a system right now. I would absolutely have no problems recommending this system as a amazing gaming system. The 9070 XT is capable of gaming and even trades blows with 5080 on certain titles, and it doesn't cost anywhere near the 5080 money. And you're going to be putting a lot of that load on your GPU anyway, which means the 12900K is not going to be breaking a sweat when it comes to games, okay? It's just having FOMO of saying, oh, I don't have the latest and greatest. So what? Who cares? As long as you have something and it gets the job done. And for $1,605, this is a pretty solid system that still has an upgrade path available to it. So you can get a faster system by changing out just the CPU if you want to. And then, if things ever return to normal and you decide you want to build an AM5 system, you could still sell this computer for at least $1,000 in the future, as long as it's not too far in the future, to offset some of the costs of building an upgraded system. Or you just yank out the motherboard, CPU, and RAM, you sell that as a combo to someone, and then you just throw that stuff in and leave your 9070 XT and your power supply and your case and your storage and all that, because those are reusable parts. This is only relevant, like building a full system like this, to those that have nothing to reuse. But you can still do it, and it's still possible, and it's not as depressing as we'd all like to think. I know depressing videos get clicks, but what's more important to me is having people get excited over something that is definitely having an impact on our industry, but it's not dead. Let's not stick a fork in it yet. All right, guys, there we go. Make some adjustments where you see fit. You can do all this with the AM4 system as well as you want, and even save a little bit of money, but you won't get as much performance as you would with this system here. And then same thing with the GPU. You can step it up to a 5080 if you want. You can step it down to a non-XT or step it down to like a 5070. You can play around with all that. The main component here that matters obviously is CPU, motherboard, and RAM combo so that you're not paying the ridiculous prices. Because if we turn this into a DDR5 system, it would be $500 more. All right, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. And like I said, I'll put links to all this down in the description.